This Northern Mockingbird is always around my yard. I hear it, I see it up in the trees. It's kind of like part of the background. But every year, it suddenly starts showing up at my bird feeder. The same pattern, every single year. And it turns out there's actually a really good reason for that. Right around this time of year, mockingbirds become a lot more active. They're more vocal and definitely a lot bolder. And that lines up perfectly with breeding season. So what I'm seeing isn't random at all. It's that during breeding season, they're a lot harder to miss because they're moving around more and searching for food in different places. And apparently, that includes my feeder. Mockingbirds were never a bird I paid close attention to before. I've always loved their singing, but I'm a little embarrassed to say that I don't think I'd actually seen one in person until a few years ago when they started showing up in my backyard. So, this whole breeding season behavior shift is really what made me start paying attention to them. And now they're one of my favorite birds to watch, especially during this time of year. Part of what makes them so interesting to observe is how aware they are of everything going on around them. Around breeding season, they seem especially alert. If I step outside, they notice. If something moves in the yard, they're already locked in on it. But what's cool is that they don't immediately take off when I'm out there. Sometimes I'll be in the backyard and they'll fly down pretty close to me and land at the feeder like I'm not even a concern. And if I go outside while they happen to be feeding, they just kind of glance at me and continue going about their business. Mockingbirds can actually recognize people and remember those they see as a threat. So, I don't know. I'd like to think I've made it onto their safe list. During this time, even their behavior with each other starts to feel a little different. When you think of a mockingbird, you probably think of that really pretty layered singing. And they do sound beautiful, especially early in the morning. But there's another side to it. Sometimes they make this harsh, almost hissing sound, and it has a completely different feel. It sounds more like a warning, like something is getting too close or crossing a line. There's actually at least two mockingbirds that come to my yard, and I've noticed that sound when they're interacting with each other, especially at the feeders. If one is already there and the other shows up, it's not always a warm welcome. So, at least in my yard, they seem pretty tolerant of the other birds most of the time, but with each other, that's where things get a little more tense. And when you hear that sound, you can just tell the mood has changed. Breeding season is also when their food preferences become more specific. They're omnivores, so they eat a good variety of foods throughout the year. But they eat a lot more insects during breeding season. And at my feeders, they love the mealworms. Like, straight for the mealworms, everything else gets tossed aside. I have literally watched them dig through the food, pick out exactly what they want, and just fling the rest out of the way like, what is this and why is it taking up valuable mealworm space? It's very intentional, very focused, and just a little bit extra. But like I said, Outside of this time of year, I don't see them at the feeder at all like this, so I love these moments. Even if they do insist on throwing out the high-quality seed mix that my husband and I put so much time and effort into providing for them and their friends. If you enjoy noticing little patterns in nature like this, you'd probably really enjoy my Backyard Birdwatching Starter Guide. I put it together for people who are just starting to pay closer attention to birds or who want to. I'll link it in the description, or you can just visit naturallycourtney.me. And if you're not already subscribed, you can follow along with me here too. This time of year also seems to bring out how bold mockingbirds are. Once they've decided this is their space, they take that very seriously. You'll see them chasing off other birds and keeping a close eye on everything. I've even seen them go after much larger birds, like a red-shouldered hawk. And you'll hear that same warning sound I mentioned earlier in moments like that. It's kind of wild when you think about it. They're relatively small, but they definitely don't act like it. It's funny because they're actually the state bird of Florida where I live, and yet I didn't fully appreciate how beautiful and interesting they are until I started seeing them up close during this time of year. And then, after a little while, they stop coming. They're still around. I still hear them and see them from afar when I'm looking around or out on a walk, but they're not at the feeders anymore. And then, the next year, around the same time, they're back, doing the exact same thing. I think that's what I like most about this. It's not that the mockingbirds suddenly showed up, they were always here. It's just that I wasn't seeing them in the same way. But once you start noticing a pattern like that, it's like a whole layer of your surroundings opens up. And now it's something I look forward to every year. That moment where they go from being part of the background to showing up right in front of me. Thanks for spending some time with me in the backyard. If you enjoy noticing little things like this and finding unexpected joy in everyday nature, I think you'll really like this video next. Take care.